Guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock. I'm Sophie, and this is Emmy.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're recording during finals week, so
Yes.
thanks
Stressful
for sacrificing your
Stressful
time.
No, it's okay. Absolutely.
This was like my break.
Yeah,
of
me too.
I'm like, okay, I can record, and then I'll study, and then I'll edit.
Yeah.
And then I'll study, and then
Yeah.
I'll upload.
Yeah.
So
Gives you a good little timeline to break it up a little bit. Yeah.
Because we all know I'm not studying this whole time.
Right, me either. Nope. Can't do it.
Thanks for coming
on. Absolutely.
Tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Emmy. I'm a senior, and I'm on the softball team here. And let's see, I'm a health science major. I'm from Saluda, South Carolina. I grew up on a farm, really small town in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. I'm the youngest of three, so I have an older sister. She's 6.5 years older than me.
Okay.
She's about to get married, which is really exciting.
That's
and
exciting.
then my brother is 3.5 years older than me. He's 25.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm a senior here. I said that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I didn't know you grew up on a farm.
Yeah, I did.
And that's so
We have
fun.
beef cattle.
That's awesome.
That's always my fun fact.
Beef cattle.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. And did you choose farming because of softball?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that was a big part. I remember, this is actually really funny. So my sister she graduated high school when I was in 5th grade.
Okay.
So I came with her on all of her like college visits and stuff, and she visited Furman.
Okay.
My brother and sister both went to Clemson, but she visited Furman, and I remember I was in, I guess it would have been like 3rd or 4th grade,
Right.
and I actually wrote this on my application, which my mom was like, "You cannot do that, like you can't." But I came to Furman, and I remembered all the buildings matched, like all the brick was like the same,
Yes.
and so like I had to write on my application like what I noticed about Furman and what I remembered, like first impression or something. And I was like, well, actually, when I was in 4th grade, all the buildings matched, like all the brick.
I really appreciate it.
And my mom was like, you can't say that, but I did. So,
here you are. So
yeah, here I am.
Really good being honest.
Yeah, true.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I know. I kind of wonder what my first impression is. I don't know.
Yeah, you've been here a long. You've been here
my whole life.
Yeah.
But then I'm like trying to think of my like first memory here, and
probably
I have
a soccer
memory is all of the soccer games,
yeah.
But outside of soccer,
okay,
it still was soccer. We had these 2 girls babysitting us. It was like a girl named Stephanie and Emily, and I remember it so vividly. And they were in that dorm, like out my window. And we played. It was grass right there.
Yeah.
And I remember playing in the grass with them. And the boys were there, and they're playing football with the boys. And I just remember like,
oh, that's so cute.
And then I was like, wait, where was that? And the reason I couldn't figure out where it was is because that's like a construction zone right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it used to be, it was a sidewalk and there was like grass on both sides. Yeah. Wait, that's crazy.
That's like
that's
my
cool.
vivid memory.
How old were you probably then?
Probably like 8.
Okay.
6 to 8.
Wow.
To remember that. I don't know.
Wait, that's so fun.
That was random.
That's okay.
That was our fun facts for that.
Yeah, true.
Okay. We can dive into your testimony.
Okay. Yeah, so let's see. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents are both believers. And so I grew up going to church. And I remember, like, we went to church every Sunday, and that was just kind of like what we did. And I didn't really, I think, know what that entailed. I feel like a lot of things, just because my brain couldn't quite wrap around it. But then I was baptized when I was in 3rd or 4th grade. I had like started to understand like what, like who God was and what He had done for me, and started to like sort of grasp that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I was baptized when I was in 4th grade, and I remember like growing up, I had seen a lot of things with my family and family friends of like people really depending on the Lord, and like them saying like, hey, He like really showed up, and like the Lord did this thing, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, you know, like what is that thing? And so I think that I grew up realizing or like understanding that like the power of God, and like He could do these big things, and like He could perform miracles and heal people and save people. And like I had a lot of experiences like that when I was little, where like people older than me were saying like, this is what He did, you know? And so I think I understood His, like the depth of His power, I guess, but I didn't really understand like the personal aspect of my relationship with God. And I feel like in, so then elementary, middle school, I went to a private Christian school. the same one that my brother and sister had gone to.
Okay.
And then my freshman year of high school, after my freshman year, I transferred to a public charter school,
Okay.
like almost an hour away from my
Okay.
house. Yeah, so I was
A
commuting.
big difference.
Yeah, big difference. So I was commuting almost an hour, and it's like 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember like going from being in a kind of closed off, like people weren't necessarily, everyone was there would definitely have called themselves Christian.
Right.
Everybody was a believer and everybody was in a way like walking with the Lord. I think it looked
Right.
different for different people, but I think as a whole, like the majority of people were walking with the Lord. And I remember going to the new school and it was like culture shock. Like, oh my gosh, like this isn't everywhere. And I knew that it wasn't,
Right.
but then to like step into that and that be my
Really
new
see it.
reality and
Right.
like, oh my gosh, like this is actually true.
Right.
And so I went there 10th grade and then that's where I graduated from.
Okay.
And I remember that was really formative, I guess, because at my old school, it was like, okay, well, these are just things that you don't do.
Right.
And I didn't really understand the aspect of like obedience from a place of love.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this is what you do or don't do because you like love and respect the one who has told you to do or not do those things.
Right.
And so I just was like kind of like clammed up and like I didn't understand. And so it was like, well, this is what I'm told not to do, so I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And I think it came across as kind of judgmental, I guess, to people who were doing things differently than me or were acting differently than me because I didn't have like a full understanding of what that meant, what that entailed, why I was making those decisions.
Right.
And I think that it was a lot of like just the Lord's favor looking back that like I wasn't participating in some things. Even though I didn't know why, but like I'm glad.
I say that too. Like, I have the opportunity to do things. And like
for some
I grew
reason
up knowing
I was like,
it wasn't what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
The Lord's favor on me to not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And so then I feel like that kind of hindered some relationship things and so like friendships going to a new school, and so that was hard. But I think looking back now, like I can see how that was a good thing, and like that was actually the Lord just being really kind and him being like, okay, like these friendships, this isn't something that's like built on a foundation of me, and so like it probably won't last, and so I'm actually protecting you. And so then I came to Furman, and I played softball here. And my freshman year, I got hurt over Christmas break, and I was coming in. I was so excited, like in the fall, and I had just like really felt a lot of like purpose playing softball, and I like really dove in head first basically, and I got hurt over Christmas break, and I remember being so frustrated. I have degenerative discs in my back, so I bulged 3 discs over Christmas break.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. So doing something that I had been doing for years, like I was just working out, nothing abnormal, and I bulged 3 discs in my back, and I was out for, that happened right after Christmas, like the week after Christmas, and I was out until the end of March. And so that was really hard for me. That was the first time that I'd had any kind of major injury. And which I feel like is a normal part of sports, you like sprain your ankle or, be out a handful of weeks, but I had never been out for months in a row. And I know that's compared to other injuries, that's small scale, but to me at the time, it felt like horrible. And just like going into my first season at Furman, that was really hard. And so I remember just like why? Like I was so confused and so frustrated. And I think that looking back now, I can see like, wow, I was putting so much identity and so much of my like worth in how I played softball, but also just like my physical strength and like what I thought I could do. And I think like as far as softball related, like in recruiting and things, like that was always something that kind of set me apart, was like, oh, she's like strong or whatever. And so I like really took that and ran with it, and like that was something that like I could hold on to and like I could be, and I could feel like I had control over. And then all of a sudden I can't stand up straight.
Right.
And like that's to me it was like embarrassing. You know, it's like, wow, like I'm like how did I get here kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think I realized like, okay, I'm actually not strong. I actually can't do anything apart from anything the Lord allows me to do.
Right.
And I think that I had gotten caught in like putting so much of my worth into what I could do physically and like what I could contribute to something physically that the Lord basically just like sat me in my butt. Literally. He was like, actually, I need you to just take a minute.
That's
like
literally though.
like, hey, just like calm down a second, you know?
Right.
And I think that was really a really hard lesson to learn.
Yeah.
But it was in, I guess it would have been spring then of my freshman year that I was reading in 2 Corinthians and chapter 12, 9 through 10.
Yeah.
But then actually, I think that's more of the famous, I guess, like more well-known verses. But then in verse 8, it says, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it from me. And then he says, but the Lord said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. And that was like, wow, like that is so how I feel. Like I'm like begging for the Lord to heal me and like take this from me. And he's like, no, like my grace is sufficient for you. Like you don't actually need any physical ability. And like I can be glorified through your life without your ability to do anything.
That's so
and
good.
I was like, wow, okay.
That's crazy.
Well, I'm actually horrible and
Right.
weak and little.
Right.
And like, I think realizing like, wow, okay, I'm living in a reality of his strength being made perfect in my weakness. And like, that was so pivotal for me in my relationship with the Lord. And I think that was when it became like actually personal, because beforehand I had seen him step in that way and like do that for other people, but I hadn't really seen him, I guess, do it for me. And so I think that was the first time that I was like, wow, like I'm actually weak and I actually can't do it myself. And this is the reality of like why he had to die for me, because I can't, apart from him, I can do nothing. And that became really real for me freshman spring. And so then let's see, I ended up being able to play the end of freshman spring, and then just a little bit. I didn't get to play very much just because I wasn't cleared until conference play started. And then sophomore year, I went home for the summer, and then sophomore year, actually that's not true. I went and played in a league in Florida for like 6 weeks. So I lived down there by myself. And that was also really hard because I went down there having not really played in the spring. So a lot of people will go down there if they have injuries or if they're in the transfer portal or something like that. And I go down there, I'm living down there by myself with people like strangers and who are on my team, and my Florida team, not my Furman team. And I'm in a hotel room. It's like little, sharing, 3 of us were in there, and we had like a little mini fridge and a microwave. And that was really it. And so that was really hard, I think, because I went from, okay, I'm really weak and I need to like actually depend on the Lord, and then I go to live somewhere else and I'm like, oh crap, like now I have to actually practice that. Like I'm not surrounded by a community that's doing it, that I can like follow the lead of. Like I have to actually choose it for myself, because I'm down here by myself with no one to hold me accountable. And it's like, okay, if I don't do it, then it's not getting done, like just spending time with the Lord. And I spent a lot of time by myself, a lot of time with the Lord. I would go, because I lived in Bradenton, Florida. So I would go to the beach and watch the sunset and eat my food by myself and just sit and like spend time with the Lord, which people were like, that's so, why are you by yourself? Like you're down here with all these people. And it's like, yeah, but that's just not what they're doing, is not fulfilling to me. And I am going to make a different decision. And so I think that was really pivotal for me of like actively choosing to spend time with the Lord over anything else. Because I had other options, again, kind of same thing as like in high school, but it was like, okay, I'm going to actually choose this, and I know why I'm choosing it. And it's really hard, and I'm having to like make a hard decision, but also like I know that the Lord is going to provide in this. And so then also I played horrible, so that was really frustrating. So then I'm like, oh gosh, it was so bad.
What am I doing?
What am I doing? I'm down here
Right.
by myself. I'm playing bad. Like, oh, it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I came home for the rest of the summer, and that was good. And then came back to school, and sophomore year is just different, and the community of sophomore year is just like nothing else because it's like freshman year dorm, like your little bubble,
Right.
but then it's like people already. So you get back
Right.
first, and
Right.
it's like all the excitement of first day class and
Yep.
all this stuff, but like it's like reunions all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you since last
Right.
year or whatever.
That's
And so that's always fun. But sophomore year was good. And I was healthy all year. That was great. And then junior year, I did an internship with strength and conditioning here at Furman, and I got hurt again over the summer. And that was like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Like,
really?
I learned
like,
the lesson.
really?
I learned the lesson.
Right. And I was kind of like, I was at the healthiest I had been, like the strongest I had been since I had gotten hurt the first time freshman year. Right. And I remember just like ugly crying, like, why? Like, I don't understand. Like, what did I do? Like, I don't get it. And I think I realized, okay, like now I'm in a position where I'm working as a strength coach, and what am I now putting my identity in again? How strong I am, and like what I can do physically, and like that doesn't matter, And so I think I just caught myself, obviously after the fact. I can't have caught it before. I realized after the fact, like, wow, like I actually was putting so much identity and so much worth and so much purpose in what I could do physically and like what I could contribute, and like trying to prove myself physically so that then I could prove myself like as a coach. And so that was really hard. And so then I'm like having to kind of relearn all those things again, be reminded of all those things again. And then junior fall, I remember talking to one of my friends about I think it's 2 Corinthians 4. At the end of it, it's like verse 16 or something. It's like the very end. And Paul talks about like day by day renewal. Day by day renewal. I'll fix my eyes on what is eternal, not on what is like of the earth, what is seen. I'll fix my eyes on what is unseen, because I know the Lord's going to renew me day by day. And so I feel like last fall I like really clung to that. It's like day by day renewal, day by day renewal, day by day renewal, like one at a time. And I think learning to like every day, like what is the Lord trying to teach me today? And I think because I had kind of lost track of what I had learned before, it's like kind of like math. Like you can't just forget what you learned, it's like constantly building on what you've learned before. And so I think that was a new reality for me, and like that became so real of wow, I actually have to, once I learn these things, I don't have it fixed. Like I don't have it figured out. Like I have to continue. Like he's like continually pruning me. And I even like catch myself now of like being in that kind of place of like putting my worth in what I can do physically on a softball field or like just strength wise. And it's like, wow, I'm actually really weak. I'm actually really little. I'm actually, like I'm actually really weak, and I contribute pretty much nothing. And so it's been cool to see the ways that the Lord has shown up in that and like provided for me. And
that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then it's just sweet to see where you are now, like as a senior, and it's just like, I don't know. I always see you with like the other softball girls and how they can like look up to you now. Even me, I'm not even a softball girl. And I mean that's really sweet to like see like what you had to walk through to get here. And I think that's really hard. Sometimes I'm like, Lord, like that's enough pruning. Like can we like maybe pause?
I'm like, that's it. I'm good right now. I need a break.
But I think that is so true. It's like he keeps pruning us and he keeps working with us. And sometimes he has to make us weak to show that he's strong. And I like that verse a lot. And it reminded me of what Caroline said last night, that quote of like, God is most glorified when we're most satisfied.
Oh, yeah.
And when we're satisfied in him, then that's how his glory is going to be shown. But then once we think we're strong and able to do things on our own, like whatever that is, like school or our sport or just in friendship or life, like whatever that is, he has to like humble us and put us back on our feet to be like, no offense, but you're weak.
Yeah.
But in your weakness, like, it's
Yeah.
gonna be so cool. Like, in your weakness, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be made strong, and everyone's gonna see that God is strong. And as Christians, that's what we want. And I also like the part of like your circle is just like full circle in that way of like the personal of being like it's a big God and He is a big God, but then to also because I think sometimes it's flipped for people. It's like sometimes I don't understand that God is like big enough to be like full power, and I think it's really cool that like from a young age that you saw that, but then what it looks like to be like He's also personal and kind to us in like in the small ways, like crying out to Him, being like, this sucks, like I just was healed from this injury, and now I'm back to start one.
Yeah, and I think this semester we've been reading Living Like Monks.
Yeah.
Wait, Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools. I always say it backwards.
No, same.
And it's been really cool to learn about like the prayer of daily bread. What does it look like to thank the Lord and pray to the Lord about like the meal that I'm eating or my walk to class or the little things that I like forget that He cares about. And so I think, especially in my story, it's like, wow, I've seen you do all these big, powerful, crazy things, and I believe you can do that, and I believe that you can step in and do that. But sometimes I forget that He cares about little old me, you know. And so I'm like, well, since He forgets, then I have to do it myself. And so I think that's where I get caught. It's like, no, you don't.
Right.
And I think just realizing like He does care, and like the reality of He was thinking of me on the cross, you know, like Jesus was thinking of me on the cross. He had my name on His mind. And I think that personal side of the relationship has like really changed the way that I just do really anything. And so I remember, I think it was maybe freshman fall, or I think it was freshman spring. I heard this on a podcast. It said, if you really believe what you say you believe, then it should change every single thing about the way you do every single thing. And it's like, wow, like I had to really think about, okay, what do I believe? And then how is that changing the way that I act, the way that I live, the way that I treat people, the way that I view myself, the way that I view the people around me. And that was like really pivotal for me. I remember it's like, it actually should change everything. And if it doesn't change everything, then like, do I really believe it?
Did it really change your heart?
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that like takes away like the lukewarmness of following Jesus. It's like you can't live lukewarm. You can't live 1 foot into the world, 1 foot out. And then sometimes we start putting our other foot in, and that's when the Lord prunes us and you know, has to humble us and remind us where we are.
Yeah.
That's so good. Oh, and the other thing from Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools, that stood out to me a lot with like the daily bread, like the small things, like He cares in the small things. It's like I trust God ultimately, but not immediately. And that like called, I'm like, I trust that like I'll probably get married. Like at the end of the day, like yes, like I'll get married.
Yeah.
I trust that. But immediately it's like I will never like,
I know.
anyone ever.
I know.
Like He's never gonna give me the right
guy.
And it's like, but what am I doing? Like, or like I trust that I'm not gonna starve to death. But then like in the moment of like severe hunger, do I trust that He's gonna provide immediately for that need?
Yeah.
And
that's good.
I think that was just like such a good reminder of being like, if I can trust Him ultimately, like why can't I trust Him immediately with these small things?
Yeah, that's
and
so
then
good.
even like trusting that He cares for those small prayers, being like, I'll pray for my future and like Lord, like guide my future with whatever job, like I want to be obedient, like praying for my big job, but like I forget to pray for, you know, me to enjoy class that I'm taking.
Yeah.
And it's like He cares for both of those things. And so just like working on talking to Him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's good.
That's really sweet. I like Second Corinthians might be your
I think it actually might be one of my favorite books of the Bible.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think something I really like admire about that is that you can quote the verse.
It felt like it was written to me.
Yes. No, and that's really sweet.
Like I know that it wasn't, but I was reading it and it's like, wow, like this, it's like jumping off the page. Like it like felt like it was written to me because I was experiencing so many of the things that it was written.
Well, the Bible is like
for
living and active for us.
Yeah.
I think it was really interesting, and like it's more powerful. It's like you could have said that, then like, you know, like I started idolizing that I was really strong and I wanted to prove myself in that, and like the Lord humbled me, and I just needed to learn that I needed to like He's a strong guy, and you know, I'm not. But then
Yeah.
to be able to like quote the verse is so powerful.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I like that you reported that.
thanks.
He's made.
I've thought about it a lot.
Yeah,
I pray through that a lot still.
that's
like
so good.
I can't do it. Like I
Right.
actually can't.
Right.
And so I think now instead of it being like, help me figure out how to, or like I just like white knuckling my way through.
Right.
It's like actually, okay, I know that in reality I can't do it. Anything aside from you, I can't do.
Right.
And so I think just like humbling myself in that reality is like has been so pivotal in my walk with the Lord. And
that's good.
Yeah.
And then renewing it day by day,
Mhm.
like asking for it
Mhm.
every day. It's not like a lesson that was learned freshman year. It's a lesson.
Yeah.
It has to be learned every day.
For sure.
That's so good. I learned a lesson a couple weeks ago, and then I'm like, yeah, I learned this lesson.
Yeah.
And then I had to like relearn it this week.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, but I also learned it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like I promise I did learn it then. But then like I kind of forgot for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
That's good.
That's funny.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
This was a good reminder.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.